this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, sponsored by Booz Allen, the building blocks for success for your agency's zero trust efforts. Ryan Zacha of Booz Allen on this edition of FedGov Today in just a moment. First, though, one of the candidates to become the next Chief of Naval Operations is on the next FedGov Today TV. The commander of Navy Fleet Forces Command, Admiral Daryl Caudle, will tell you how his service's One Atlantic concept has matured. You can watch the show this Sunday morning at 10:30 on ABC7 in Washington and on the FedGov Today YouTube channel. If you missed the debut of the show Sunday morning, you can watch it on demand anytime at fedgovtoday.com and on YouTube. The Department of Defense is moving toward a 2027 deadline to fully operationalize its zero trust strategy. That strategy lists the National Institute of Standards and Technology's publication 800-207 as the foundation and defining document for what zero trust is and how it works. Ryan Zacha is solution architect at Booz Allen. Ryan, welcome. It's great to see you again. I loved having you on the Zero Trust In-Depth show recently that's available on demand now at fedgovtoday.com. One of the things that you and I touched on but didn't really get a chance to dig into in that discussion was government-industry partnerships. What's your assessment of a successful partnership, how it works between a government organization and an industry partner, and who does what to make that relationship successful? Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Francis. So touching on that government and industry partnership, one of them that is a really strong partnership that we're a part of here at Booz Allen Hamilton is the Thunderdome program. Many folks here listening in may know Thunderdome, but they may not understand that it is a vehicle that can be leveraged by all of the DoD community to get after cutting edge capabilities that get after the 152 activities that DoD CIO is charged the organizations to get after in that space. How that works together between us and DISA, right? DISA is the contract and vehicle owner. They help engage directly with the DoD communities to help share information, availability of that vehicle. They sort of stand ready to support as needed. And then from us, on the Booz Allen side, the industry side, we're there to dig in with the organizations to understand what are the capabilities that these organizations need to implement, what are the best of breed tools, leveraging solutions, conducting analysis of alternatives to understand what should they adopt, how do they plug those holes, how do they get to the outcomes that they need to meet target state ZT and effectively advanced state ZT as well within the space. So that plays really well with us going together as a unified team to help support all of DoD in that way.
How do you avoid the temptation that I hear about all the time that I'll just go get some zero trust? You know, Katie Arrington, performing the duties of the CIO at DoD, was on the show this weekend talking about that idea that zero trust has become a kind of a cultural institution rather than a product, but there's still that temptation for people to say, I'm going to do zero trust rather than kind of build it. How do you keep folks on the right track mindset-wise?
Certainly. That gets into conducting and creating a ZT strategy for your organization. A lot of folks are dealing with a shortfall of people, right, to execute these strategies. That's why, in many ways, they can come to folks like Booz Allen to be able to help them generate those strategies. But having that clear strategy is what's going to give you a clear roadmap of implementation, leveraging existing tools and capabilities within your space, understanding where gaps are so that you can close those with new technology, but then also understand the cultural side of it. Because it may not be a product buy, and in many cases it's not. It's a situation of, okay, I need to do this tough thing that is to characterize all of my data, understand where it resides, go through a access mapping solution that is there. You need to discreetly capture that activity and how it needs to interplay with the technical implementation. And unless you sit down and have those tough conversations with your organization, build that roadmap, align folks and execution teams to those, you're going to keep going in that circle of maybe I need to buy a thing. Maybe I should buy this tool that's going to help me do this thing. Unfortunately, that ends up with a whole bunch of disjointed tools that ultimately aren't providing the outcomes that you desire. So again, foot stomping on take that time, bring in folks like Booz Allen if you need, conduct and create that strategy, and then march towards it to make sure you're getting to the appropriate outcomes.
In all of those steps, are there common areas where you have seen challenges in organizations, or is every organization absolutely completely different in what they're doing well in those areas and what they're struggling to do well in those areas?
The common struggle for most organizations is around wrangling their data. It is the toughest problem in Zero Trust. We are seeing DoD CIO and others start to help there. They are working on what is a Zero Trust data format and other common ways of marking data within an organization to help all of DoD understand where do I start, right? How do I mark my data? What am I supposed to do to make sure that it's marked appropriately so I can share it within the organization? In a situation now where we lack that standardization until that comes out, that is where the struggle is real. There is is sitting in a situation of they're afraid to make a decision to say, hey, let's use these categorizations outside of just our standard, top secret, those sort of things. But clearly defining what are sensitive data labels that we have in the organization, they're afraid to step their foot out, in my opinion, to get that. So that's caused a lot of folks to hesitate and delay looking for other input. So the outcome of that is going to be start to do the analysis now, understand what data is out there, what users need to have access to that data. You may not need to come up with a standard about how to tag it. Wait for DoD CIO to come in and provide that. That's fine, but don't wait, I guess, to do some of that analysis to understand how data is moving in your environment.
What's fascinating to me, Ryan, about that concept, though, is you didn't say the organizations don't have the tools that they need. You didn't say they don't have an understanding of their architecture. You said they were afraid, and that's cultural as much as in a negative way as some of the positive cultural things that we talked about earlier in this conversation. What ameliorates that fear other than just getting started? Is that really what it is just pushing through whatever the negative emotions are that are associated with it and going for it?
Part of it is getting started. That is certainly going to help assuage those fears. Others is looking for other organizations across our .gov that have done that well. If we go back to our show and we talk about Mark, who was there from GAO, they had stated that they had done a lot of work in that space to help them tag and classify their data and get towards attribute-based access control. Making those connections inside the Gov and have Gov-to-Gov conversations go a long way. How is it being done elsewhere can work as a pathway for how can we do it within our organization. Some of our three-letter agencies as well in the IC community, they've been dealing with essentially zero trust and compartmentalization of data for years. They are a good example and reach across that government aisle to have conversations about how they are handling data within that environment. That helps show what is a workable solution for organizations. And I think that gives them a foothold to start that process off and say, okay, let's follow down the rabbit trail of how they got to where they needed to be and make sure it works for us as well.
How does one go about measuring success? How does one know that one is on the right track, zero trust wise, and isn't just complying with all the 100 and whatever steps that there are involved?
We've talked a little bit about zero trust accelerators and assessments, right? That gets to the front part of saying I can sort of self-attest that I believe that I'm hitting those 152 activities focused on the 91 target state. From a Booz Allen perspective, we can help organizations if they haven't got to that level of saying, creating their implementation plans, clearly understanding and generating heat map charts with dashboards to visualize where they are today and where their weak points are against that space. But really testing and understanding, if I have implemented a zero trust architecture, it is taking the connections that we have made between activities and capabilities to our MITRE ATT&CK framework in 853 controls. And then generating red team and purple team events to test your environment, to really prove out that any given system has implemented zero trust in a way that is removing lateral movement and the attacker's ability to gain a foothold in those and then be able to pivot to crown jewels, domain controllers, and other things they typically target. So once you feel you have created a system or a network that is implementing of zero trust based on saying, yes, I feel I'm compliant in this space, you need to back that up with an actual red team event where you're going discreetly after those MITRE ATT&CK framework tactics and techniques to prove out that your architecture and implementation is effectively controlling.
Ryan, it's great to have you on the program. I appreciate you joining me today. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Francis.
You can read more about Zero Trust on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. On the next FedGov Today podcast, the federal government should buy commercial software wherever it can, according to a new White House executive order. That EO also says the federal acquisition regulation's about to get a shot of Ozempic. You'll learn how that'll work on tomorrow's FedGov Today podcast. You can listen to every FedGov Today podcast anytime you want on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks very much for listening.